So the first thing I want to discuss is the RMS end of life and what does it mean. RMS end of life doesn't mean exactly what end of life sounds like. What Microsoft has done is they've taken RMS and they've put it into what's referred to as an extended support phase, and that began in July of this year, and that continues until July of 2021. So the extended support phase will last for 5 years. What that means is existing customers current on maintenance can continue to purchase RMS and HQ licenses after it's gone into extended support. However, new customers, somebody who had never purchased an RMS license before, cannot buy the product. So for many of you, this is the situation that you're in. You've got existing RMS installations, existing RMS licenses. If you need to add a register or add a store, we can definitely do that. But if you've never used RMS before, then you can no longer purchase the product. And so extended support ends July 13th of 2021. So let me talk a little bit about what the replacement for RMS is. Microsoft's initial solution was the Retail Realm Essentials product. And while Retail Realm Essentials is a phenomenal product, it is not geared towards the single store. It is not geared towards the 1 or 2 stores that may be using a headquarters environment. It is really intended to get your foot in the door into an ERP solution, and then as you grow into the 15, 20, 30 store range, start looking towards Microsoft Dynamics AX as a full ERP solution for your organization as a whole. And that left a lot of RMS customers without a real clear direction on where to go. Retail Realm and Retail Hero for a long time have been designing add-ins and plugins and enhancements for the RMS product. Many of you may be familiar with the Retail Realm name through their plugins. I can tell you in working with them for the last 15 years that they do phenomenal plugins, but Retail Realm has become the distributor for RMS, meaning anytime I go to purchase a license for RMS, I actually purchase it from Retail Realm. So Retail Realm's partnership with Microsoft is very tight and it's very strong, and it will be for a really long time. So Retail Realm and Retail Hero is another company that's been developing plugins for RMS, and they've been developing POS overlays, and you may be familiar with their Hero Points loyalty program and things like that. So after the launch of Retail Realm Essentials and looking at the landscape of the existing RMS customers that sort of came out of the woodworks, many people aren't current on maintenance, so there's no real record of them actually having RMS. But with the announcement of Retail Realm Essentials, a lot of people started coming to their VARs and coming into the community and saying, we're using RMS, we haven't bought maintenance because Microsoft didn't really update it for the last few years, and so we need a replacement. So Retail Realm and Retail Hero went to Microsoft and they talked to them about what can we do to satisfy those single store, smaller retail customers. And so they in talking to Microsoft, decided to build their own standalone product, and they've called it Retail Management Hero. And so Retail Management Hero, why would you look to go in that direction? So with RMS coming to end of life, RMH, that's what we're referring to Retail Management Hero as, it has very similar functionality. One of the key benefits of it is that it can install over existing RMS databases. What that means is if you're a single store and you want to make the transition from RMS to RMH, we can install RMH onto your existing hardware, convert your existing database. The conversion is really just adding a couple of tables to it, and the installer will do all of that as we upgrade it. And then you're good to go. All of your customers, all of your sales history, your promotions, your discounts, every piece of information that you have inside of RMS is automatically existing inside of RMH because we're not converting the data. We're not moving the data into another database. We're using the exact same database. So what that means is your investment in hardware, you don't have to change anything. If you're using Windows 7 or above right now, you are good to go. That is one of the minimum requirements. So if you are on Windows XP, you're in a move to RMH, you are going to need to upgrade that hardware. But if you have reasonably new hardware, and I say reasonably within the last 4 or 5 years, that hardware will work with the RMH side of things. One of the other key advantages of the RMH product is that it's easily extendable and customizable. RMS originally was designed in 1995 as a product called QuickSell 2000, and the technology in 1995 wasn't quite up to what it is now. Microsoft purchased the product and rebranded it RMS in 2001, and then it went through a couple of versions, but it kept some of the core design framework, making it rather difficult to go in and modify how anything on the screen looks. You didn't have access to that. RMH is very easily customizable, and I'll show you that in just a minute, how simple it is. Not necessarily something that the end user can do on a regular basis, but something that we at BMI can do without needing to involve a development team. Anybody installing RMH for you can go in and make tweaks to the screen layout and things like that. One of the additional advantages of RMH is that it is still an on-premises solution with offline capability in the way that RMS is. There are a lot of solutions out there that are in that same sort of marketplace that are web only. You work through a browser, but those require 100% always-on internet connections, and RMH being an on-premises solution doesn't have any of those requirements. So if you're an existing RMS customer, what does the transition to RMH mean for you? So if you're current on your Microsoft Enhancement Plan, you will be able to transition to RMH at no additional licensing cost. What that means is if you have a store and you have 5 POS lanes, you can get 5 RMH licenses. Now, when you do make that transition, you will need to buy 12 months of additional RMH support and enhancement plan. And what that means is that's your commitment to Retail Management Hero for them giving you the licensing in exchange for your RMS licensing. That's your commitment to them that you're going to be staying with it. Now, if you've recently or your maintenance for RMS is current, let's say you have 6 months remaining on your RMS maintenance, they will add that maintenance into onto the RMH maintenance. So if you had 6 months remaining with Microsoft and you make the transition to RMH and you buy the 12 months, you'll have 18 months worth of maintenance. So you don't lose anything staying current with your RMS maintenance with an eye to moving to RMH in the future. You definitely can do that, and you don't lose any of the costs that you put in from RMS maintenance standpoint. If you're not current with your Microsoft Enhancement Plan, then you will still need to buy the 12 months of RMH enhancement, and then there's a $250 per terminal activation fee. So if you bought RMS back in 2007 and you've never paid the Microsoft maintenance, you can still move to RMH, but it's $250 per terminal. There is one change that they make from an RMH licensing perspective different than an RMS licensing perspective. In RMS, you buy the POS license, and that's the only license that you need to buy. With RMH, there is a manager license as well as an RMS license. So if you're making that transition from RMS to RMH, they'll include 10 manager licenses with that first POS license. So if you've got installed in 3 or 4 back office computers right now, you don't need to worry about the additional manager licensing. It will be, you'll get 10 users included with that POS license. After that, each additional manager will be priced at $400 each. That's what the pricing of an RMH manager's license is going to be. So I'm going to jump over to the RMH product right now and show you what it looks like.
Okay, let me change presenters here as well.
All right, so this is a Windows 10 environment, and I have the RMH POS screen. login screen. I'm going to show you the POS first, and then I'll show you the manager side. You can see on the left-hand side here that there's a similar set of installation applications, similar to how RMS does it. There's a POS, there's an administrator, and there's a manager. One of the key differences is that each of these components can be installed individually. So if you've got a back office machine that's only going to be the manager, you don't need to install the RMH POS. If you've got a register that you don't want them to have access to manager on, you only need to install the POS. You don't need to install manager. You'll see a fourth option here, and this is RMH Stock Take. This is a standalone application for taking physical inventories and cycle counts and things like that. And that can be installed on its own on, say, a tablet or on a laptop with a USB scanner that you can walk around the store with. You can install that piece individually without needing to install the application as a whole. So the RMH POS screen, it does look significantly different than how RMS was laid out. The core pieces are still the same. You've got a central area for your list of items as they're rung up. You've got a total and a subtotal area, but instead of the function keys down at the bottom, you have a series of touch-friendly menus. Now, a lot of the function keys that you're used to using still work. So you can still hit F12 to tender a transaction. You can still hit F7 to look up a customer. Control-Shift F7 still clears a customer. But rather than having to remember all of that stuff, there's a menu system down across the bottom. We've also got the option for custom buttons on the right-hand side. Unfortunately, since the core technology has changed, your existing third-party integrations that you may have that have custom buttons, those will have to be configured differently in working with RMS. So you can talk to us about the specific plugins that you guys are using, and we can determine which ones will be able to work with RMH without any modifications, and we'll look and see what other options may be there. A lot of functionality that was used, that plugins were used for, has been embedded into the product. So one of the key changes is you don't actually key into the grid here. You've got a search box in the top, and you can type in anything that you want to in there. So you can scan from anywhere on the screen. It's going to know to go to the search box. You will not have any more of those incidents where you're accidentally clicked on an item and scan over it and things like that. The search box also works for customers as well. So if we look in our customer list and we see that Natalie Jones is a customer, I can type in Jones as well, and oh, did I not? Oh, I'm sorry. From the name screen I can't, but I can type in their account number. So what you could do is, if you've got a customer loyalty card, you can scan their customer loyalty card and bring up that customer by scanning their loyalty card or swiping their loyalty card. If you need to search for a customer, you can do that through either F7 or use the menu to look up a customer. And then you can ring up your transaction. You'll notice that there's a button here on the screen as well. So this button will take me into specific actions that I can do on that line item. I can add quantities and remove quantities and adjust quantities. I can change the price, delete, set the sales rep, sales tax, that kind of stuff, similar to what we had a bunch of different function keys to do inside of the RMS side. And then tendering the transaction, we can get to the tender screen, and it supports all of the same tender types that RMS does, and they're configured in pretty much the same way. One thing I will say about the tenders here is that the Retail Management Hero product has credit card processing for EMV built into it. Whereas right now with RMS, you would install a third-party plugin, and depending upon which EMV provider that you went with, you know, there'd be a couple of other applications that need to be installed in there. Most of that is built directly into the RMH interface. One thing I will say about that, you can only process credit cards in RMH if you are set up to do EMV. That's the direction that everybody will eventually have to go to. Right now, it's sort of a optional thing if you want to take the risk, the liability risk as a merchant. But here in another 2 or 3 years, it's going to become a mandatory feature. So they decided to bake that into the RMH product right now to get people to go that way. And so I'm going to go ahead and tender this transaction. You can still hit the plus key to tender it, and it'll put the exact amount in. One of the other features that's built into a Retail Management Hero is the ability to email a receipt. This particular customer already had a email address, so it's automatically populated. I'm not going to email this receipt, so I'm just going to go ahead and say cancel, and then the transaction completed, and now I'm ready to do my next transaction. So we still have all of the same functionality where we can view the journal, where we can, I hit F4 to view the journal. The journal, you'll notice, is slightly different than what you're used to in RMS, but the receipt looks the same. There is a different reporting engine built into RMH, and it's also a reporting engine that runs the receipts. So one of the limitations RMS had was you couldn't get all of the information on the receipt. Within RMH, you can get any piece of information that's in the database. You can get that information to be generated on the receipt. You'll also notice from the journal right here that you can reprint a gift receipt, and you can also email the receipt from the journal. So if you had a customer call up and say, hey, can I get a copy of the receipt? You can say, sure, go look up the receipt, get their email address, and then just right here from the journal, you would be able to email their receipt. And so that's what the RMH POS screen looks like. A couple of other pieces that you can see across the top here is you can change the font size. So if I need the information on the screen to be bigger, I can just drag and change it. If it's too big for me, I can slide the scale and I can make the fonts bigger or smaller as I need them to be. I can also change the resolution from the screen at the top. So if I need to go with a smaller resolution, I can choose a smaller resolution, but if I want to just stick with the standard resolution, I can change that. And there's also the ability to theme the POS system as a whole. Right now, I'm showing you what it looks like on the light screen. There's also a dark theme that would allow you to pick whichever one. And you can customize these themes, and you can work with your VAR to get a theme together. There's a couple of other themes that exist out there. There's one for people with visibility, where it's mostly green and black, and then there's other ones that have colors. But you can make it look pretty much whatever color you want. So this is what the core of the POS screen looks like. You still have all the same functionality. You can do a quote, you can do a work order, you can do a layaway. You can recall orders that are on hold, you can recall the layaways, you can look at order details, and you can make payments against layaways and things like that the same as you could inside of RMS. There is some differences now in what you can do in terms of discounts. The screens are a little bit easier to navigate. You're not having to click a radio button to get to a particular discount like you did in RMS, but it still handles all of the same discounts. And then you still have your same core functionality of being able to enter opening amounts, closing amounts, and so on. One thing they did change is now you can view your X report rather than having to print your X report each time. So at any point during the day or during your shift, you can view the X report and get an idea of where you're at. Now again, these features are all dependent upon how you set security up for the individual user. So if you got a cashier that you don't want to be able to do a discount, then we just turn security off for that cashier. If you have a cashier that you don't want to be able to recall a layaway or put things on layaway, we can set security to prevent that cashier from being able to do that. So this is what the POS screen looks like. I'm going to launch the manager side. Well, I'm going to say no to that because I already have it running down here. And so what we're looking at right now is this is the Store Operations Manager screen. It looks drastically different than what we were used to with the RMS product. And you'll notice that it's got sort of that Office Outlook feel to it. You've got menus along the left-hand side that can be hidden or expanded. You can have those menus fly out when you want to have them fly out so that they're only there when you need them, or you can set it so that it's permanently out. And so along the left-hand side, you'll see that there's merchandising, there's a customer-specific area, there's an inventory and purchasing area, we've got backing up the database, label designer, those types of those tools, and then we've got a setup section that actually is quite. One second here. Sorry about that. So we've got a setup section here that gets into the back end of some of the things that RMH does differently than RMS. One of the key things that we'll notice when we start looking at the setup is under financials, we've got items, we've got sales tax, we've got currencies, and we've got tender types, and we still have the checks that we're used to seeing there. And then we've got the reporting section, and the reports are different because it uses a different reporting engine. So if we look at, for instance, our detailed sales report that we're all used to seeing inside of RMS, it's going to ask us for filter information. I'm going to run it wide open, like we're expecting, and when it generates the report, you'll see that it's got the same basic information, but it is a little bit more modern look than what we had inside of the RMS product. And here's our detailed sales that are there. And you've got more options and things that you can do with this reporting engine than you had with the RMS reporting engine. And some of those are that you can, obviously save it, but one of the things that you can do is you can save it directly as a PDF document. You can export it to Excel. You can do all of those things that you're used to doing with that. And there are significantly more reports than there was as native reports inside of RMS, and they continue to bring out more and more reports. You still have the ability to get custom reports and memorize reports. Now, in making the conversion from RMS to RMH, you do have to keep in mind, with it being a different reporting engine, some of the custom reports may need to be modified. Even though the receipt does use a different reporting engine, if you've got a customized receipt, that can convert to the RMH system. But since the reports do work slightly differently, that's one area of change that we'll have to make modifications to. So some of the other differences between RMH and RMS and some of the other advancements that have been made. So if we go in here and we look at the item, you'll see an item card that is very similar to what we had in RMS, the different tabs, general tab, inventory tab, a lot of the same fields. If we look in the inventory tab, we have more information available to us now. We've got ordering guidances and we've got sales history right inside of the item card. We've still got our pricing breakdown in a similar way that we had inside of RMS. We can put it on sale. We still have the same interface for using the traditional discount mechanisms. So you can set up your buy X and get Y for Z discounts and those types of discounts the same way that they were inside of RMS. And we still have access to aliases the same way. One of the bigger changes that you'll notice is on the purchasing tab. Something that RMS did not do very well at all was units of measure. And I chose yoga instead of yogurt, which was my setup item. So inside the purchasing tab, we have units of measure that we can set up as well, that we can have an ordering unit of measure or a purchasing unit of measure as well as a sales unit of measure. I know that some of us have gone through the laborious setup of a parent-child relationship and how all of that works so that you can order from your suppliers in cases, but sell to your customers in eachos. This is RMH was designed to get around the need for parent-child, though parent-child is still an option when it comes to item setup. But you'll be able to purchase in one unit of measure and sell in another unit of measure easily. Otherwise, the rest of the information, since it is built upon the same RMS database, is still available to you. One of the other major changes that they've made and differences between RMS and RMH is one of the most popular add-ins that Retail Realm had ever built was an accounting add-in. And what that does is, in RMS right now, when you set up a customer, you can have that customer also be able to purchase on account, and you can then generate billing statements for that customer and send them out. What RMH does is RMH separates an account setup from a customer setup. So you can have a customer who is also an account, but if you've got a customer who has multiple employees, let's say, who come in and purchase from you, they can each be set up as their own individual customer and then assigned into the same account. So all of the billing information can route back to a single entity, but each person who comes in can actually do the purchasing under their own customer account name. It's a little bit of a different sort of way of thinking about it than we're used to from an RMS perspective, but it is quite powerful when you get into using it and have the need for multiple customers to be able to purchase under the same account. If it's just a single customer purchasing under the same under that account, then it's still just this person, Christina Sprinter, who's set up as a customer, who's also set up, well, let's use Sarah Waters, is set up as a customer and also set up as an account. So the customer information that we're tracking is still the billing addresses. You can still have access to all of their purchasing history. You can have their shipping address. There's the same information that you're used to seeing when setting up a customer. And there's still also the custom fields for setting up that customer. If we look on the account side for Sarah Waters, now we can see that she'll have her own separate account code, and this is the account code that can feed into your accounting system as well. And we can see basic information, what their role is, aging groups. RMH has also added in the concept of account manager, where we can now assign a particular account manager for a customer. This is different than the salesperson. We can have a specific account manager set up in the system to be assigned to that customer. We've got different mechanisms of how they would want their communication to take place. Then we've got billing information. We can set their credit limit checks based on their account or based on some other options that we set up. We can determine how their payments are applied to their account. So we can either manually apply it, or we just pick and choose which of their outstanding invoices we apply payments to, or we can have the system automatically apply it to the oldest one first. And then we've got custom buttons as well, and we've got a notes area. So we can track significantly more information through this account tab than we could with the old RMS system. There's a couple of more things surrounding items that are different than what we were used to in RMS. There's a very extensive inventory wizard. Now, the inventory wizard that we were used to in RMS had a couple of tasks. I think it had just these tasks 110 through 170, where you could go in and en masse change item prices or costs. RMH has extended that to have all of these tasks that are here. So we can go in with this simple interface and we can set a block sale where we cannot sell these particular items during this time period. So let's say you sell alcohol and you can't sell it between midnight and 12 a.m. on Sundays. We can go in and set the block sale for those items all in mass. We can set item commissions. We can change sub-descriptions. There's about 45 new tasks that we can do. And it's a similar similar interface that you're used to if you use this inside of the RMS side. So if we wanted to change item is not discountable at the POS, we can go in, we can use a myriad of filters to get to the specific items that we want. If I wanted to do all items in the clothing department, I can just choose the clothing department, and I could say item not discountable at POS, yes. And now I go in, and what it's going to do here is it's going to show me, here's all of the items in the clothing department, and here's what the current setting is, and here's what the new setting is. So I can either go in one by one, I can do the copy to all, and so that I could set them all that way, though I probably should have gone with yes on that one. And then when I say okay, I can commit this and it'll go into the database and it'll make those changes to all of the items in your database rather than having to either go in item by item or have somebody do that at a database SQL scripting level. So there's the inventory wizards. The label wizard looks very much the same as how the RMS label wizard worked for us. The label designer, however, uses a new interface. So let's open, we're going to open a test label. And so the label designer has more of a drag and drop feel to it. We can set the dimensions. We're not working inside of those unique little picks that you had to work with inside of RMS. We can just insert a shape. We can insert a text field. We can make the labels look like anything that you want to through the newer, easier label designer. And then from a purchasing perspective, there is a new concept inside of the Retail Management Hero product that is invoice matching. And so when you generate a purchase order inside of the Retail Management Hero product, you've got different statuses. We've got an open purchase order, and so we can go in and look inside of this purchase order. You'll see that the layout is very similar to RMS, and that is by choice, that they've made a lot of the layouts similar to RMS because it makes it easier. There's less learning and less training involved in making a transition from the RMS product to the RMH product. And so we can see our items that are on our particular purchase order. We can also add charges to a purchase order, and we can tell the purchase order how we want those charges to be applied. We can add charges to the purchase order that, so let's say there's a shipping charge, or there's a late payment charge, or even a discount for making payments early and things like that. You can add those charges into the PO so that you can get an actual landed cost reflected inside of the costing system. You're not just limited to last cost or manual cost adjustments or average cost. You can actually get a true landed cost based on based on different charges that may come in. There's also the ability to do invoice matching. So your accounting team can put the invoices inside of the Retail Management Hero product, and we can then link those invoices into receiving documents so that you can make sure that those match together. Now that's something that just was not available inside of the RMS product, and it was, again, one of their most popular add-ons for RMS. They've now embedded it into the Retail Management Hero product. So that's sort of a high-level brief overview of many of the changes for between RMS and RMH. And you can see that it's still there. If you know what it is you wanted to do inside of RMS, the chances are you're going to be looking for the exact same thing inside of RMH. It may have a slight tweak to the screen. It may have, some subtle differences, but for the most part, the navigation is really simple. We've found people who've made the transition from RMS to RMH, they pick up on it pretty quickly and are able to get going right away. So we're coming up on about 15 minutes left. Are there any questions that have come up?
Yes, we have had one come in so far. So we'll give a little bit more time for people to mull over if anything's thinking on. The one we had was, if we move to EMV with RMS, what will we have to do when moving to RMH?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, the EMV processing, or being able to take the chip and PIN cards, is embedded into the Retail Management Hero product. The Retail Realm and Retail Hero, in developing Retail Management Hero, they have already worked with all of the different systems, or all of the different suppliers for EMV from the RMS perspective. So you can make your transition to EMV inside of the RMS product, and anything that you do there will carry over into RMS or into RMH. So one of the requirements that they made was, if you developed an EMV solution for Retail Management Hero, your solution also had to work with RMS, so that somebody could make that transition, get in the chip and PIN, and start securing their customer credit card information today. And then after Christmas time or early next year, or whenever they decide to, they can make that transition to the RMH product without having to reinvest in hardware, encryption keys, or setting up new accounts or anything along those lines. The two work together as part of the design.
Perfect. Another one that we had come in is, will the POS capture electronic signatures for credit card purchases and store them in the journal with original receipt, and also be stored in customer purchase history?
The signature capture can be printed on the receipt, and it is stored in the journal, yes, as a receipt. If you can get to it from customer purchase history, you can get to the journal from customer purchase history. So then, yes, you would still be able to get to that signature.
The next one we had was, do I have to change all POS units from RMS to RMH overnight, or can both systems run together?
They can't run together within the same store. So the conversion needs to take place within a single store. So you can't have a single store running one register on RMH and one register on RMS. If you're in a multi-store environment, you can change a single store to RMH. Because since it uses the same database, you can continue to use your RMS HQ, and you can run RMH at one of your locations. So if you're multi-store, you'd only need to transition one store at a time. There is one caveat to that right now, and they're working on a solution which would be an update to your RMS HQ. If you think back to how I described the differences between how customers and accounts work inside of the RMH product, RMS HQ doesn't understand that distinction. So if you don't do any customer billing outside of HQ, then there's no changes that you need to make from an HQ perspective, and you can start putting RMH in a single store. If you do close billing statements and you do work with on-account information at an HQ level, then you'll need to wait until they get that plug-in for RMS completed and tested that allows you to handle that inside of an RMS HQ environment. But yes, a single store needs to be either RMS or RMH. You can't mix registers in a single store.
Perfect. We're getting some good questions here. Another one that we had come in is, once we move to Retail Hero, can we still move to the bigger Microsoft products later?
Yes, yeah, definitely. You can transition to the RMH product, and if you're looking with an eye to moving towards the Retail Realm Essentials product, Retail Realm Essentials uses its own database import for existing RMS databases. Retail Management Hero is built upon an RMS database and uses an RMS database. So you can still use that, you can still leverage that built-in migration functionality of the Retail Realm Essentials product after converting to the RMH product. There will be some tweaks that need to take place if you have really rely on customers and the customer accounting mechanisms of RMH, but the framework is there, and it's significantly less work to make that transition from RMH or RMS than it would be a different POS system.
Okay, the next one in queue here is, are shipping integrations built in, or are they still third parties such as ShipRush with RMS?
ShipRush is still a third-party integration. The shipping that's currently in RMH is the same functionality that was in RMS. So for right now, ShipRush would still be a third-party add-in.
Okay, well that looks like all the questions that we've had in queue. Was there anything else you wanted to touch on?
The last thing that I wanted to touch on was, again, going back to EMV and credit card processing with RMS. And I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that we've seen an uptick with our non-EMV customers in terms of getting chargeback. And when I say uptick, I mean we've got some customers that are getting upwards of $1,000 to $3,000 a month in chargebacks. And those chargebacks aren't coming from customers who are disputing it. Some of the smaller banks are automatically disputing non-EMV transactions run against an EMV card. So I've got one particular customer who had a chargeback on their own card within their own store. They didn't initiate the chargeback. Their credit union on their behalf did, because the credit union had spent $6 per card to issue a few tens of thousand EMV cards, and merchants aren't using it. There's some dispute amongst the banking industry of whether or not the bank can initiate that chargeback or not. There's the PCI industry and the banking industry are sort of discussing that. There's I've received some literature on any customers that I might have who want to enter into a class action lawsuit and stuff like that surrounding how this works. So my advice is, even if you're not looking to make the transition to RMH within the next couple of months, I would take a serious look at making the transition to taking the chip and PIN cards, even if you know your customers and you're not worried about them. It's not the customers that are initiating a lot of the chargebacks now. It's the banks that are doing that, and so it's definitely something to take a look at. And we've got a myriad of solutions now. I think we're up to 12 different solutions from an RMS perspective in being able to process EMV credit cards. And many of those solutions allow you to do some pretty fancy things like store and forward, which is something that you can't do natively with RMS. So if your internet connection goes down, you can set a threshold to say, go ahead and automatically approve any transaction under $20, even if the internet's not working, rather than just saying, nope, credit cards are down, we can't help you, and turning away 100 $20 transactions instead of just maybe taking the risk of getting one $20 transaction that doesn't go through. Some of the other things that it can do is it cannot require a signature for a threshold, and it can do tokenization with the credit card, so it can store a credit card securely on file. So if you've got reoccurring billing, or you want to be able to charge your customer without having to actually swipe a card. The card number is never stored inside of your system. It's stored securely in the banking system. The only thing that's in your system is a randomly generated unique identification number that links it back to the banking system. And then one of the other cool features that they've done is you're able to do returns and you're able to void transactions up to 30 days after the transaction took place. Because you're not storing the card number, you're storing that random token. The bank knows, okay, yeah, we wanted to void this transaction, and here's the transaction information, and then they can go ahead and void it from the back end. So there's a lot of advancements that have taken place surrounding credit card processing. It can both secure your customer cardholder data, it can take your computers out of scope for PCI compliance, and it can make just the general atmosphere around securing those credit cards a lot simpler.
Well, thanks for the good breakdown here. We did have one question follow-up on that, and that was, are these offline card solutions available for RMS now?
Yes, yes, definitely. There is and I say yes, there is one offline card solution. If you're processing with Vantiv, used formerly Mercury Pay, then they're the ones who have the certified and tested offline capabilities. If you're processing with some of the other processors, theirs haven't been certified yet, and so you might need to wait for theirs. But if you are okay with switching processors, or if you're currently a Mercury/Vantiv customer, then yeah, that's a solution that's available for you today. And in fact, I will be installing beginning in about 35 minutes for a customer.
And the next, and I guess the last one in queue at this point, is, will third-party credit card processing software like PC Charge work with RMH?
PC Charge shouldn't be working with RMS even. PC Charge hasn't been certified as a PCI compliant processing solution since about 2009. So if you're processing with PC Charge right now, you should definitely reach out to us and see what we can do to get a more secure processing solution for you. So to answer your question, no, it does not work with RMH. RMH requires a PCI compliant credit card processing solution. What that means is, if you guys remember the Target breach last year where 100 million different cardholders' information was leaked out on the internet, that vulnerability is the same vulnerability that PC Charge has. What that means is every time you use PC Charge to swipe a credit card, there is a temporary file with all of that cardholder's number, name, expiration date. All of that is stored in a temp file on that computer. So if a hacker has access, or a piece of malware has access to that computer, they have access to every single credit card information that you swipe. So no, PC Charge specifically will not work with the RMH solution, but there are standalone gateways that do work with the RMH solution, so you can process with just about any of the 400 major processors that we have in the United States through RMH, but it may route through a different third-party gateway.
Great. Well, it looks like that's all the questions that have come in so far.
Well,
did you have anything else to touch on, or should we get out a few minutes early?
We can get out a few minutes early. The last thing I would say is, this was just a brief overview. If definitely warrants a more in-depth conversation about your specific environment, your specific setup, what add-ins you're using, how you use RMS now. But I just wanted to let you guys know that it exists. It's an upgrade for existing RMS customers, and just let us know, and we can delve deeper with you specifically, and hopefully make a determination if it's the right go-forward move for you.
Perfect. Yeah, on behalf of everyone at Interdyne BMI, we just want to thank you for your attendance, and have a good rest of your day.